Welcome to another episode of Arks Trash. This is episode 5 of Arks Trash. Yes, I can do math this time. But episode 5 of Arks Trash is with BlackToBasics. So you guys may be looking at the timeline of the video and going like, wow, this is an awfully short Arks Trash video. And the reason for that is because BlackToBasics just slaughtered all of my questions with extreme efficiency. Like his name states, he was brutally efficient. And yeah, that's why it was super duper fast. Anyway, those who are unfamiliar with Arks Trash, it is a podcast, thus it will be audio only. So, you can just play the video, minimize at the side, and just listen at your own leisure as you're doing your dailies, or you're doing some extreme quest grinding, or whatever you're doing, you can just listen to the podcast because there's nothing really important video form. It's just going to be something to keep you entertained in case you're one of those people that have to watch the video and listen at the same time because you can't multitask. I hope I'm not alone here. But anyway, if you're new to the channel, I upload PSO2 content daily. So if you do play this game, I'd really appreciate a subscribe as it really helps out the channel. Anyway, without further ado, let's begin the video. Welcome everyone to the 5th episode of Arks Trash. Today with me I have BlackToBasics. BlackToBasics, would you like to introduce yourself to my audience?
Hello, I am Black from BlackToBasics. I make very short, to the point informational guides that are usually unopinionated, or I try to keep them unopinionated at least. And my goal is to basically take everything to know about PSO2 and break it down in an easy way for anyone to understand.
What got you into PSO2 to begin with? Like, why PSO2? Why not other games?
It was almost 8 years now, and it was just a bunch of group of my friends already started playing it, the Japanese version, and they said it was translated. They had a translator for it, so I just jumped on it with them, and the rest was history. We just had a lot of fun. Pretty much followed them to every game, and it was my first action combat, so it looked really interesting.
So, how long have you been playing PSO2?
Almost 9 years, maybe, if we count global.
So, do you play the JP server more or the global server more?
I've barely touched the Japanese version at all since Global's come out.
So you played JP for basically 8 years until Global came out?
Mostly, yeah, but I did a lot of back and forth, like just a lot of breaks because there just wasn't that much content, at least for the first few years. So I get in, play for a few months, catch up, do all the new EQs, or EQs, they're not called UQs, emergency quest 2, urgent quests, and that was really all there really was to do. I didn't know as much about the game either back then, so I just, again, got in, had fun with the fashion, did all that stuff, and came back every few months. And then maybe once around episode 4, 5, and 6 came around, I played a little bit more, and they had more events and more catch-up events and more stuff to do. So, but I never played hardcore, really, ever. Maybe for like short bursts, but that was about it.
So when you played on the JP server, what was like your main source of fun? What was your goal in the game? If you were just, you weren't going min-max, you were just playing casually.
I never did dailies that much, honestly. I should have, but I never really did it. I did a little bit more once the keys came out from recommendeds, but that was it. I mostly just tried out different classes. I did so many urgent quests just because I loved doing them. I didn't even care what they dropped. I just had fun doing them. I liked a lot of them. And fashion. I'd even come back sometimes to the game just when I saw new fashion would be released. I'd come back, and I always liked that aspect.
So for fashion, you were saying, so when you played on the JP server, were you fully free to play or were you a cash user?
I was a cash user. It wasn't as easy at the beginning to do that, but after a little while, we had ways to get around that, and we could also eventually end up even buying Arks Cash through the PSO2 ES app on your mobile device. So that was even easier to Google.
Oh, wow. So you played ES as well?
A little bit, but mostly just to get access to that Arks Cash app.
Okay, gotcha. Because on the JP server, from what I understand, the only way to get the receptors was from PSO2 ES, was it not?
That I'm not entirely sure about, but there's a lot of things that were only available on ES that we now have already built into the global version of the game.
Gotcha. So when you started playing JP, was there any content creators or any guides that you looked up to, or did you just kind of free flow it and just play at your own leisure, kind of learn as you play?
When I first started, there was like nothing out really. At least when I looked, or for that I can remember. But maybe after the first year or so, there was guides laying around, and I can't remember exactly whose or what they were, but there was definitely guides on the forums and stuff. And a few years after that, we'd have the Discord, that we have the Arks Fleet Discord, which we had more content creators in. But they had a forum before that. So it was mostly, yeah, just looking at like written guides and whatnot on forums and Reddit.
So the Discord, the Phantasy Star Fleet Discord. So how long has that Discord been there?
Honestly, I'm not entirely sure. At least a few years now.
Yeah, for sure. Because when I started PSO2, it was just a given that you went into the Phantasy Star Fleet Discord. There was everything there. There was the Tweaker was there. the the translations, all that jazz, and then there were a bunch of guides as well. And so it was just like, oh, this is the place to go to get all your resources. But I must have imagined that back when you played, 8 years ago, 9 years ago, that there probably weren't any resources other than that forum that you said.
Actually, if I can touch back on that, I remembered something. Actually, I don't know why it slipped my mind, but the people who do the tweaker and the people who do the that Discord, they do arkslayer.com, or is it .com, or it's arkslayer anyways. It's their main site, and that was the main resource. It's still a great resource for lots of information, global and JP, but that was the main resource to help get everyone into PSO2 from the West, or who wasn't from Japan really. So, and they're still around. So yeah, they were the big one.
So you say that it was the main one for people from the West. Then what do the Japanese native players use? For example, on the Arkslayer website, right? You've got the simulator, the affix simulator, and all of that stuff, right? Which is super, super useful and almost necessary for a lot of players. So what did the JP players use in order to simulate their stuff?
I assume that they probably had their own simulator somewhere, but the Arkslayer also had a Japanese text version as well, so anyone could use it. There's something else. The S-Wiki. If you're familiar with the S-Wiki, it's a Japanese, basically PSO2 S-Wiki is just a huge wiki of all just everything PSO2 related. Anything you ever want to know about, go there. It can be a little hard to understand some of it with Google Translate, but everything you want to know about has been figured out and is on there for the most part.
Do you have a lot more fun playing PSO2 as it is now that you know everything, right? Like basically players in JP have pretty much tested everything and have the answer for what is the most efficient way to play, so forth and so on, versus when you first started where everyone was just in the same boat and nobody knew what they were doing. Which time period did you feel like you had the most fun in?
I always feel like I have more fun at the beginning of games when I don't know anything, but I think I have a lot more fun with PSO2 now that I know all the mechanics and everything. So it's kind of like half and half for me, because I wasn't able to enjoy the combat nearly as much and the game nearly as much because I didn't know just how things worked and how to really get access to all these or not get access to, but just how to utilize, like even just perfect attacking and doing combos properly and just sidestep dodging properly. It's all these little things that add up to really fast and fluid combat that I didn't do at the beginning that could have made things a lot more fun. But if I had to give an answer, like I had a lot more fun at the beginning when I didn't know anything.
So what's your favorite class? What do you play the most often now?
I play mostly Phantom and then probably a Twal behind that, but with Luster out, that might be my new main.
So with Luster, are you going to make a guide for the Luster class?
Yep, I should have it out probably in a few days from when we're recording this. Hopefully, it's about halfway done right now. I need to record about 12 more minutes of audio, which will take me about 5 hours, and then I'll slap some video on top of that, and we'll be done.
Nice. So out of the Luster class, there's 3 different styles, right? Is there a style that you prefer?
I think I like the full male style the most because it gives you guard frames and it feels kind of like an aggressive class. I really like it. But Baran would have to be a close second because it's just so much guard frames and it's really tanky and it's nice to have that beefiness when you need it. And it's also got some ranged normal attacks, so it's really crazy. And the counters are crazy on it too. But Zandia is amazing too. They all are amazing. But yeah, I'd have to say full male is probably my favorite.
So would you consider the Luster class, would you recommend it to a new player?
I'd recommend everything to a new player because they might like it. There's certain things people might like that others won't. It might be the only class you like out of all of them. But I think to really get a feel for Luster, you need to understand how a lot of the other Scion classes work. So if you play all the Scion classes and other classes in the game, it's very easy to pick up, in my opinion, once you understand the basics of it. But to someone brand new, it may be very, very overwhelming. But even so, I mean, if you want to try it out, I'd say just try out with one gunblade style at a time and just go into Rock Bear and training and just try it out and try to have some fun. Maybe look up a guide. I don't ever sell yourself short and don't ever tell yourself as a new player that you can't do something because the game is very simple once you break it down. It's just a lot of just intricate moving parts you need to put together.
So what class would you recommend to a brand new player?
Probably Braver or Hunter, because those are the ones I started with, and that's what a lot of people start with that I've seen, and they're really forgiving. Because Braver has an amazing block that you can active counter out with a lot. It's very mobile. It's a weeb class. People must love it. And a lot of people love it, I should say. And the Hunter is very similar, where it has very beefy. It's got some really good blocks. It's got the big sword. It's also got couple other interesting weapons to choose from. So I think they're very good to start with, and especially if you start with a Hunter, you'll be able to get a Hunter sub too. I think those are really easy to start with, but at this point, I think most things are easy to start with besides some of the Scions, but you can't start with those anyways.
So I'm going to give you a scenario, and you're going to have to recommend me a class to play. So I've just gone out drinking for the past 3 hours. I come back pissed drunk, but my friends want me to play PSO2 with them, and we're doing an urgent quest, or we're doing triggers. And we're doing it on ultra hard. I need a class which can make me look good even though I'm totally smashed. What class would you recommend me to play?
Well,
what moveset would I be spamming? Just laser beam?
You'd probably you might want to actually go with soaring blades, but they have long range and close range, and their normal attacks are gap closing, so you can't really mess up. You just hold normal attack to keep getting back to the boss. You can block during literally anything, but if you're drunk, it might be a little hard to do. So I guess you don't have to use soaring blades, but all in all, I think just the entire 12 kit would keep you alive, and you could use whatever weapon you think you have enough brain cells for at the time.
Okay, gotcha. So you've been playing PSO2 for quite some time now. What is your most memorable moment?
Let's see. Last week, someone asked me this too, a different podcast, and I said it was when I first saw Big Varder or some of the bosses. But when I actually think about it, really, the most memorable moment, which we shouldn't have to think about this, but it came to me though, like the most memorable moment was the first time I ever did any mission, any quest. It was the first time ever going into the forest with a bunch of friends walking me through it. It was the first time I saw an emergency code pop up, and we actually had like 3 of them back to back almost. And I was like, "What is this?" Because it was English voice, but I just wasn't expecting it. It was kind of crazy. I was like, "Oh wow, this is an interesting game." Guys just shouting stuff at me all the time. This is going to be an interesting ride. I like the announcers and stuff from like games like in Devil May Cry. We get the style announcer and stuff like that.
So speaking about Devil May Cry, what other video games did you play or do you play?
I did a lot of Warframe for a little while. Like the fast-paced action combat of that. I liked Blade and Soul. Did that for about 3 years, off and on. I did Black Desert for 3 to 4 years. I don't really play much now besides PSO2. But I started with Lineage 2. That was a big one for years and years. I just so much Lineage 2. That was really my roots. And then Blade and Soul, Black Desert, and everything after that. Yeah,
it's always been MMOs basically.
Yeah, I did a little bit of MOBAs. I did a little bit of League and Han. But I never got too into it.
And what about your YouTube stuff? Your YouTube channel's not that small either now. You're hitting what, like 11, 12K now?
Yeah, we just reached 12.1K or so. It was dragging for a while at 11, but we just got a big spurt and we've been growing a little faster now.
So, like, tell me the history of your YouTube channel. What do you start off with?
We started almost exactly this time last year. I think it was February 13th. I don't know why I remember that day, but I think that was about when I first started putting my first videos out. Because a few weeks before that, we had noticed that PSO2 was coming to the West around January or so, and that's when we got the notice in January. So in February, I started making videos, and I wanted to start making videos either for Black Desert, Star Citizen, or PSO2. But I didn't know which. But when PSO2 was coming to the West, I figured that was a great opportunity to grow and help a lot of people because I knew that the game didn't teach you anything at all. And the guides that were out there were mostly text and were very long and bloated. Nothing against anyone else, but that's just how it was. I just wanted to start something to give people an easy way to get quick information and everything I need to know. So I must have put out about 50 videos within the first month to get everyone ready for the closed beta. And I barely got like even 100 subscribers from my first 50 videos. And then once I slapped it on Reddit, I got up to like 1,000 within the first week or so, or after that. So it was pretty crazy. 1,000 subs, that is. And then once it was NA at the time, I actually dropped on Xbox, I grew a lot even more. And then once PC dropped, I grew exponentially even more after that when PC and Steam came out. So it's been lots of like bursts and then steady periods and growth spurts. I think you've probably seen the same too.
My channel's a little bit different. My channel has been growing a little bit scarily fast recently.
I noticed that a little bit.
Yeah, it's kind of scary. So what happened with my case, I did say a little bit about this in Arks Hour, but I didn't get my channel back until March or April of 2020, right? So I basically had like 4 months of downtime because I didn't have my YouTube channel. It got hacked. So I got my channel back, and that was when I made the transition to PSO2. I think PSO2 came out like, what, in May or late April? I don't remember. The PC version.
For PC, yeah, I think it was late May, yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, when it came out on PC, I was like, all right, I'm going to make the switch because I wasn't having a good time in Blade and Soul. And so I switched over and I made my first video, which was first impressions of PSO2. And it was me and my group of friends goofing around doing, I think it was Luther. I just recorded that and then I voiced it over and I was just like, this game's amazing, it's fun. And you literally just see me holding down right mouse button as a Braver. And my right mouse button is a Morning Retriever. That's it. That's the only PA I used for like for like the longest time, right? And then
it's a good BA.
Yeah, then people are like, bruh, you could be doing a lot more damage, you know? I was just like, oh, right. And then eventually I learned, you know, perfect attacks or just attacks. And then basically I made the switch to PSO2. And before I made that switch, I was on 15,000 subscribers for like a very long time. Basically from like 2019, maybe October, I was on like 15,000 subscribers. So like 2 months all the way till December, like there was not really much growth because Blade and Soul's population was just getting worse and worse, right? A lot of people are leaving the game and less people are playing the game. So there wasn't that many people interested in Blade and Soul anymore. And so that was another factor which made me switch over to a PSO2. But it wasn't sunshine and rainbows the moment I switched to PSO2. It took quite some time for the channel to pick up traction. It took almost like, I'd like to say 2 months before the YouTube algorithm was like, oh, this guy doesn't do Blade and Soul videos anymore. This guy does PSO2 videos. And then started promoting my videos to to people that actually wanted PSO2 content. So it took a while, but once it started picking up traction, we hit, 20,000 subscribers really quick. And like right now we're like almost at 24,000 subscribers. It's really scary how quickly it's growing. Yeah.
The first time I saw one of your videos was when you did the Yamato Battleship UQ guide, because you got yours out before mine. You got yours out before me and Anamana. We were like a week late on it because we didn't really think it was that important. You got it out, and I'm like, who is this guy? I've never seen him before.
Right.
And I realized you had like 15.5k subs or whatever, and I never heard of you before. And you were doing daily PSO2 stuff. I'm like, I've never heard of this guy before. And now, a few months later, I've only gone a few thousand more, and you're like almost, I won't say double, but you're doing really, really good.
I definitely feel doing like the daily uploads helps a lot, but it's also the context of my videos, because I'm not like a super tryhard player, right? You have the players who are super min-max already. There's content creators that cover that market, but there doesn't seem to be a market that is super casual, right? Like a lot of people who know me very well, they know that, hey, Kero really just logs in the game, does his dailies, then sits in the lobby and starts editing videos. Or he'll do something to get footage so that he can B-roll it and then continue editing. Like there's an inside joke with my alliance where everyone thinks I'm a workaholic because I literally spend, like half of my day editing videos or recording videos or something related to YouTube. Well,
it takes a lot. I mean, I don't get nearly as many videos out as you do, and I still end up spending a couple hours every day working on content creation regardless of if I upload or not.
Yeah.
So I get it. I can only imagine getting one out every day. I don't want to get one out every day eventually, but my goal would be to have like 3 out a week and 3 streams a week. That's what I want to have come NGS. And I feel like that's pretty doable for me come NGS.
Yeah.
I don't know if I ever want to ever do one every day. I just don't know if that's feasible for the type of content I want to cover, the way I want to cover content, because I like spending like a day writing a script. Even if I can write a script in like an hour or two, unless it's something I know very, very, very well, I'll make a video about it right then and there and be done with it. But I usually like to write a script, fact check everything, reach out to people, hear back to make sure I get everything right by the next day after I sleep on it. 99% of the time, every time I sleep on a script, I have a revision I want to make to it the next day to make it a lot better. So I usually like to spend at least a day or two on each video, and just the way my whole process goes, it ends up working really well that way. It's not that I can't get one out every day, it's that I choose not to because of just the way I want to do things.
I totally understand it. You have a perfectionist mentality. You want to get things right. You fact check everything. You make sure everything is good before it's out.
It's not exactly perfectionist. It's more of the information is out there, and it's been out there for so long, and it's so readily available if you know where to go and find it, that I feel like I'd be doing a disservice to everyone if I don't get that information out properly, as easily as possible in the fewest amount of words that the most amount of people can understand. And it's weird because if you take a video that I do and I break it down, I could recreate that so much faster, but the whole process takes a long time actually to condense stuff down. So even though things might sound simple, it takes a long time to figure out what I want to do for each thing.
It's actually really difficult. I think a lot of people underestimate how difficult it is to simplify something down to its core essence without missing all the intricacies. Like, for example, that luster guide, how long is it?
20 to 25 minutes.
right? So it's a 20 to 25-minute video. And how long did it take you to make it?
If I added up all the hours,
Mm-hmm.
probably at least 40 to 60.
Right? You see? So a lot of people don't realize that, hey, this 25-minute video takes 60 hours to make, right? A lot of people are like, oh, he just recorded that in 25 minutes and just slapped it together. Cuts, you know, and that was it. But no. It's a lot harder than that, because, you know, you have to collect your thoughts and be like, all right, what are the main points on this class? What are the important points, and how to play this class, combos, rotations, all that jazz, right?
Yeah, it's a lot. Like sometimes I'll sit there with my arms folded for half an hour trying to think about just how I want to show something, or just how I want to rearrange a script. Like I'll spend like a couple hours just rearranging a script and like rewriting it or changing it around. Or sometimes, again, just sitting there with my arms folded trying to figure out how I want to show 10 seconds of footage that takes me like an hour or two just to get that 10 seconds just properly. And recording audio itself takes me, it's so long. I joke around, but people think I'm kidding, but it takes me about 20 times longer to record audio than the final product.
Do you find it easier to make shorter videos or longer videos?
It's much easier to do shorter. Just when I have longer videos, like the Luster one right now, I break it up into like 5 to 10 minute parts and try to get like 5 minutes done a day. That way it feels like I'm getting something done every day. But just doing short 5-minute videos, like my normal shorter videos, just knowing that they're short and that I can get them done faster is just a big boost to motivation. So I can know I can get them out faster. But when it's a longer video, it's like it just drags on me and drags on me. It's like, I got so much to work on. So with shorter ones, I'm much more motivated.
Let me pick your brain a bit. How does your creative process go? So when you're recording a video, right, you say you break it up into 5-minute parts. So do you like turn on the camera and begin video, record that 5 minutes, stop, and then edit? Or how does your process go?
What do you mean, just like recording the audio, or just in total, in general?
For example, I'll tell you my creative process. My creative process is really, really caveman, right? I click the record button, the camera's rolling, everything's recording, and I do everything in one take. If I mess up anything, I just pause and I redo the line. And I redo it as many times as I need to do it until I get that line perfect. And then once that line's done, I just keep moving on. And so at the end of the recording, I have like a, 1 hour video, usually not 1 hour, usually it's like 30 minutes to 40 minutes video, right, of raw footage, where I will cut down into a condensed like 10, recently it's not be 10, it's more like 14 to 16 minute video. But, the raw recording's 40 minutes because of all the mess ups, all the retakes, blah, blah, blah. And then I just fixed everything in post. And that's what I do. So how does your process go?
That's how I did it when I first started. But I've always used a script. After my first initial few videos, I've always made a script because I'd always forget things, or I always at least use notes. But once I have all my script done, I sit down and I just record audio until it sounds right, like you do. But sometimes I'll do it in big spurts, but I generally try to keep it as like a paragraph at a time. And I'll read that one paragraph until it sounds perfect with the exact inflection that I want. And then I will, once I'll listen to it back a few times, and once I hear it right, I'll move on to the next paragraph. And then I do it that way because I want to make sure that each paragraph or each sentence or whatever sounds uniform, like the inflection and everything sounds the same for the most part. It was much harder to do with my old microphone because it was so inconsistent. But I could do it either way. I could do it the way you do it or the way I just mentioned, just fine. I sometimes swap back and forth, but I find that if I kind of edit or listen to each segment at a time, like very short segment at a time, it's easier to work with. Sometimes I can get one paragraph or line done in one take. Sometimes it takes 20 takes for that one line, because sometimes I just get tongue-tied, or I just keep getting a mouth click, or a car goes by, or my cat jumps and makes a noise or something. But now that it's the winter, it's not bad. But in the summer, all the power tools outside and stuff, it was really a pain to record, and the AC's on and everything. It was almost impossible, but it's not as bad now.
So your channel's currently like a medium-sized channel in the PSO2 community. What advice would you give to smaller channels that also want to cover PSO2 content in order to help them grow?
So definitely just start doing it. Doesn't matter really where you start, doesn't matter what you do. As long as you start putting out a few videos, it gives you a great foothold in the community. People will notice. There's not much PSO2 content out there right now as far as people putting out content on YouTube, so people will eventually find it. And there's so many different types of just things people are interested in PSO2 that someone will eventually probably like what you have to do. And if you look at my first 50 videos, they had no editing on them whatsoever. And they were very simple, very very, very short, no script or anything. They weren't great, but getting those 50 short videos done got my foot in the door of into YouTube and just got my experience. And then I was able to dive deeper. And don't sell yourself short because all the information is out there. If you don't know much about the game, you can always go to the Visiphone Wiki. We can go to the Arks Fleet Discord. You can go to the Japanese S Wiki. You can go to watch other people's YouTube videos and look up all the information you can. And the best you could do is just give them as much information as possible in the simplest way, really, and then also in your own way, because everyone has their own way of doing things. I watch like every PSO2 content creator because even if I know they're a lot less knowledgeable than me, because I like hearing their take on something, and they might have a different understanding of something than I do. I might think they're less knowledgeable than me about something, but that might not be the case, because if I watch something from them, I might learn something, and I do a lot of times learn something from a lot of different people, no matter their size and no matter how new they are at content creation or the game. It's great to see different aspects or just different takes on things, and don't ever be afraid that people won't like what you're doing just because of the way you do it, because again, people don't like what I do, but they might like what Keroppi does, or they might not like what Keroppi does, but they like what Anamana does, or vice versa. But in reality, most people probably watch all of us just to see our different takes on things, and just don't let anything stop you.
That's a good answer. So building off that idea right there, what type of content do you think is missing in the PSO2 community that people aren't covering?
Ooh, probably a lot to do with fashion. Memes are great. Seriously, a lot of memes. I know Pigeon Life does a little bit of memes. I don't know if he still does them, but I love seeing PSO2 memes. They're great. They're on Reddit, but I'd like to see them posted more than just Reddit. Again, I mentioned fashion, but when they just say fashion, there's so much more to it than just that. Because you can do fashion, like Instagram fashion, with like different types of, like, if you edit it, or not edit it, but like with different types of filters and stuff, you can make some really, really cool pictures and stuff like that. And then also, a big one would be music videos. I haven't seen like any PSO2 music videos, GMVs or anything like that, and I want to start doing some too, but I'd love to see those. More comics are great. Art, lots of art is always great. We don't see much art. There's so much, actually.
I think so too. I think a lot of people are so focused on making guides, educational videos, or, you know, informing people about stuff, that they forget that PSO2 is actually a game for a much wider audience. As Alera said back in episode 3, PSO2 has an identity crisis.
I listened to that podcast, and as soon as you said that, I agree with that so much, because I've seen like 3 different ads within the last day or two, literally for PSO2, and one of them was some weird thing with fashion. One of them was a cluster fudge of stuff going on the screen, and I had no idea what was going on, even as a player. And one was some guy, a hunter, like a level 1 hunter, barely swinging a sword around, and they were all terrible representations of the game besides the fashion one, and they each seemed like different games, and I was like, I have no idea how they're trying to portray this in ads and trying to like promote the game. It's so confusing the way they're doing it, but at the same time, I don't know how else you'd really show it to anyone else besides just showing the combat or fashion. So it's really hard to promote the game.
Let's move on to something a little bit more fun, and that will be about New Genesis. So New Genesis is coming out sometime this year, and there has been closed beta 1. We've seen the footage already. People have been playing it. People have data mined, and, you know, the freaking Arks Council Discord has gone ballistic about it. So what are your thoughts about the game so far?
It looks freaking fantastic. There's so many things about it we all wanted that we're getting. I can't even name them all off right now. It's just so much. The only downside to right now that I can think of right now is we won't have enough content when it first comes out. The thing is, there's so much things that we don't know, and there's so many functions and features that may change by the time we get it, that I'm just biding my time and waiting, and I'm really just going to enjoy playing it.
Do you have any other questions you wanted to add in?
So at the beginning, you said you usually spend half your time in PSO2 just sitting in lobbies editing, right?
Yeah.
Like, I do the same thing. I am always in the game, but I'm barely playing the game.
Mm-hmm.
And I was always wondering how much time you actually get to play, because I always joke around with my line saying, I don't have time to play the game and make guides. I just don't. So one of the reasons why I sometimes don't get much guides out is because I'm playing the game. And when I do get a lot of guides out, you don't see me for a few weeks because I don't get to play the game. Wondering if it was like that for you.
In my case, it's not as extreme as you, because your upload schedule is a little bit similar to Azalera's, where when a video comes out, it's a big deal. But because your upload schedule is a little bit more spaced out, I can tell from, and obviously from the podcast you've said quite a lot, that you spend a lot of time editing and making videos. While for me, because it's a daily thing, it's more of a rush. So in the Arks hour, I say that I schedule my videos, and in some sense I do, to an extent, but certain things you can't schedule. So for example, every big patch there is, the first like 2 to 3 days is crunch time. There's no breaks because there's so much content to cover. And the way that I upload my videos is I don't care if people are uploading earlier before me. I don't care if there's a big content patch and I want to get the information out immediately. I don't do that. My upload schedule has always been very consistent, steady and consistent. It will always be 6 p.m. my time every single day. So even if there's something like, oh, there's something really important that I need everyone to know, like, a code or something, I will wait. I will record the video and have that all done and have it just, scheduled on the YouTube thing. But I won't publish it until my regular publishing time. And that's just kind of like a rule of thumb that I've had. I don't really know if it's better or not. Probably not, but it's just something that I stick with.
Yeah, I can respect that a lot.
As for playing the game, I still managed to fit in like at least like 30 minutes to an hour a day to play video games, like just any video games in general. But as you guys, well, I guess my audience might know, I spend a lot more time playing mobile games. The reason for that is because I can play mobile games on the go. So when I'm outside, when I'm not in front of my computer, I can still open up AFK Arena, Princess Connect, all of these other mobile games and just kind of tap, 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 play a little bit, 5 minutes here, 10 minutes there. And yeah, like actually sitting down and playing a PC game, I'd say, 1 hour a day, 2 hours a day if I'm lucky. That's about it.
Yeah, it's not bad. That's what I get if I'm lucky.
Yeah.
But I don't know about that outside thing you're talking about.
Oh, yeah, right. yeah. Because, where I am, it's okay to go out-ish.
Oh, no, actually, I'm just mostly just kidding because, I don't mean to make light of it, but my life has barely changed at all since the COVID's happened. Like, okay. I never left the house that much unless I had to at the beginning. Yeah. Not that I'm like a shut in or a need or anything, but I just don't go out unless I have to.
Yeah, it's totally understandable. A lot of people, actually, it's funny. A lot of my friends are like that as well. They think that I'm crazy because I just stay at home and play video games all day. Or so they think that I just play video games all day because, editing and all that crap. If you're in front of your computer, you're playing video games is their point of view. So, they were like, wow. For the first week of like the pandemic, they're like, wow, this feels awesome. And then now they're going insane and they're just like, Caro, how do you do it? How do you stay home for like a week without doing anything? I'm like, I'm doing a lot of stuff, but I mean,
yeah, you're doing a lot of stuff.
It's fine. I don't I don't feel the urge to go out because, so I don't know about you, but in my college years, as well as, well, maybe not high school, college years, definitely, I did a lot of drinking. I did a lot of drinking, a lot of partying, all of that crap. And then in my master's degree, I have a master's degree in wine, certifying me as a sommelier, which is basically like a professional drunk, right? And, I'm just sick of alcohol because I've just grown up, like the past like 8 years have been I've been dealing with alcohol. It's gotten to the point that whenever I go out to eat dinner with my friends or with my family, I don't drink. I just want water. I don't want wine.
Yeah, plus when you're older, like you can't drink like you used to, even 2 or 3 drinks, and you're like, oh,
yeah.
How did I do it before?
Unfortunately, we are closing to the end of the podcast. So I'm going to open the floor to you, Black, if you have any socials or any shout-outs you want to say before we conclude.
You can find me on YouTube under BlackToBasics, one word with no K. Same thing on Twitch, BlackToBasics, no K, one word. On Twitter, I think it's the same thing on Twitter, yep. And then besides that, as for shout-outs, there's a lot of really, really good content creators out there, up and coming, that have really, really good information. And a lot of people streaming who are smaller in numbers, who I think everyone should really give a shot at. Just to see what they have to offer, because there's a lot of people on the directory and Twitch who might not be pulling that many viewers, but they are very, very knowledgeable about the game and very, very kind people too. So I'd say just give everyone a shot in the PS2 community and see what you can learn from different people, as far as from YouTube, Twitch, and just in general.
All right, thank you, Black, for joining us on episode 5 of Arks Trash. But that is going to be the end of today's episode. Anyway, thank you everyone for watching, and we'll see you guys next time. Bye.
See ya.
And that concludes episode 5 of Arks Trash with BlackToBasics. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the podcast. If you did, I would appreciate a like and a subscribe, and I'll see you guys in tomorrow's video. Bye.
What can I say except you're welcome?